Okay, so 6th of the September, time is this, 6th of the September 2024, and time is this. So today, day 110, day, sorry, 120, not 110, 120. So in the last session, we talked about the streams. In the last session, we talked about what? Streams. Node.js, streams. So first we have seen what do you mean by buffer. Everything in a React internally is represented as a buffer. Stream means chunks of the data. You are going to get the chunks of the data. Whenever you are going to get the data in the burst mode, not in, when you see the data in the burst mode means what? Chunk by chunk, not once at a time. At that time you need something called as stream, and most of the things in a React, sorry, most of the things in a Node.js are using streams internally, right? Now especially we are going to see something called as this thing, events. See, this is nothing but your Node.js buffer we have seen, streams we have seen, and the events. If you learn this much, your Node.js is done. Rest of the things are nothing but the third party packages that we would be using. So events, if you see here we have used rs.on, here we have used rs.on. So there are particular events that would be getting triggered on the streams. Now if you go here, and the definition of the stream, events, much of the Node.js core API are built around idiomatic asynchronous event driven architecture, in which certain kinds of the object called as emitter emit the named events. Emit what? Named events. If you see, extends event emitter over here, and if you see my emitter dot on, and here you are publishing the event. Okay, remember that we have seen three foundational things of the Node.js. We have seen three foundational things of the Node.js. Your complete Node.js is built on the top of your complete Node.js. So when you talk about the Node.js, here you can see Node.js async non-blocking. Async what? Non-blocking. So there is an event loop. What is an event loop? The IOs node transfer it to the kernel, and kernel handles the data. And what? Kernel handles the data, and on the particular scenarios, kernel sends you the messages back. Okay. Then we have seen buffers. Everything in a node is represented internally as a buffer. If you want to read the data from something, there is something called as stream, and stream gives you events. Events, there are something called as event emitters, and here you can say event consumers, right? Everything in a node is represented by means of the byte buffer. Streams read the data, write the data, and gives you the buffer. Streams, on particular operation of the stream, it gives you the event. Internally they have used event emitters. Internally they have given what? Event emitters. Okay. Now day 120, I'll create a simple file. Here we can create the node project also, app01.j. Here we can create the separate node project also. Just a minute. Now if you see here, much of the Node.js core API is built around the idiomatic asynchronous event driven architecture, in which certain kind of the object called as emitters emit the named events that cause the objects to be called. For instance, net.server object emits an event each time the peer connects. fs.readStream, yesterday we have seen this, emits the event when file is open. Stream emits an event whenever data is available to read. A stream emits an event whenever data is available to read. Remember that these are the pillars of the Node.js: buffer, stream, and the events. On this thing, on the top of this, whole and soul, your Node.js APIs are written. Core APIs are written. All the objects that emit the events are the instances of the event emitter class. These objects expose an on method. If you see here, yesterday we have used on. Can you see on? And this method is coming from the event emitter actually. Here I said that we will discuss this on method tomorrow, right? It is nothing but what? The event. So when event emitter object emits an event, all of the functions attached to the specific events are called synchronously. Okay. Any value written by the called listener are ignored and they discarded. So return, anything it is written is discarded and ignored. So this is a function. So let's try to write an event today. So if you see, all the events are the object of event emitter class. So first we need to import it. We are in a Node.js and not using module. So we need to use the older thing like here we can say const event emitter is equals to require events. Require what? Event emitter. Require events. So here const em is equals to new event emitter. We are creating object over here, and see here we can say em dot on, and we can pass hi, our custom event, and whenever there is a hi event, this function would be getting called with some nm name, and we can have console.log data is $nm. Okay, now we can emit the thing, em dot emit. Here we can say Apple, Android, Windows, etc. Let's try to run this project. cd day 1 to 0 node app01.js. Nothing is getting printed. em.emit and on. So here we have forgotten name of the event on which, on the high, this is the name of the event. High is the name of the event and high is the name. On the high we need to send these things. Can you see data is Apple, data is Android, data is Windows. So high is the name of the event. The way yesterday we are having data and so this read stream and write stream classes have given this name to the events. Similarly, we can give anything over here because today we are implementing this on our own, right? Today we are implementing this on our own. So passing an argument, just we have seen here we have passed the arguments. So this is our argument in case passing an argument to the event, right? Function, this is the function a and b, something like that. We have done that. Asynchronous versus synchronous. Now here if you see, actually a lot of things are there now. There are multiple events. Here are multiple events. Okay. Fine. Asynchronous versus synchronous. Event emitter calls all the listeners synchronously in order in which they are registered. This ensures that the proper sequencing of the events and helps the race conditions and the logic errors. Helps avoiding the race conditions and the logic errors. When appropriate listener functions, when appropriate, the listener function can switch to an asynchronous mode of the operation using the set intermediate or the process.nextTick methods. So if you see here, so whatever you are doing over here, that can be synchronous or the asynchronous. Okay. When appropriate, listener functions, these are the listener functions. These are what? If you see, this thing is called as listener function. In our case, this thing is called as listener function. This is the listener function. Okay, when appropriate, listener function can switch to an asynchronous mode of the operation using set immediate or process.nextTick, set immediate or process.nextTick methods. Handling event only once. Well, presently there is one method called as once, right? There is a one method called as once. Only one time that thing is going to be handled. Now, how do you handle the errors, right? See, this is important. Error events. When an error occurs within the event emitter instance, the typical action for an error event to be emitted, these are treated as the special cases with the Nodejs. If an event emitter does not have at least one listener registered for the error event, an error event is emitted, the error is thrown to the stack. Now see, they are saying that if em.error em.emit to which listener? Error listener, new error, we can say bad data. Now see what will happen. Can you see, it is thrown to this stack. Every event emitter is having built-in, every event is having a built-in name called as error. If you didn't handle the listener over here, if you didn't handle the listener like this, there was absent in the earlier case, this will happen. So here we can say e and console dot log E. Now if you rerun the app, can you see bad data? And you are handling error by means of this emitter. You are handling error over here. That's what they are saying. So this is how you will handle the things. And can you see here, if there are asynchronous things inside it, you can use the async keyword over here. If there is a promise and there is some error, I hope you remember what is a promise and you have worked on you have practiced the promise that we have studied in simple JavaScript. We have studied the promise. That is nothing but the same. If you are handling some promise or something like that, hello.
Yes.
So when if there are the promises or something like that, and if you want to trigger the error, you can use the async keyword like this and handle something like this. So once you what you can say clear with the basics, all these things are just the document, reading the document and implementing it. That's it. Right. So something like this. You may go through this class, but I have covered the foundations pretty clear. So as we discussed, remember that Node.js is nothing but what? Asynchronous non-blocking IO framework. How non-blocking thing is performed? Event loop is there. What is event loop? The IO operations are transferred to the kernel, and kernel can handle it on its way, because kernel is generally is a multi-threaded. Okay, so in a Node.js, these are the foundational pillars. Your whole and soul Node.js packages, all these Node.js packages, whatever you see over here, all these node packages are written on the top of these foundational things: buffer, stream, and the events. These are the core foundational things of the Node.js. So we discussed what do you mean by buffer? A sequence of the bytes. What is a buffer? You can say sequence of bytes. Stream, handling data chunks. Handling data chunks. Events, triggering events on data, on data, on receiving the data, on deleting the data, and whatever. So we have covered the foundational things of the Node.js over here, right? Now in the next topic, what we would be covering, handling errors. We already have covered this part, or we can cover, or handling the errors I will cover with one of the topic, file handling. How files are handled in a React, that part we will see. Sorry, in a Node, that part we will see. So next topic would be files, and if possible we can cover one more thing. Okay, then we are going to cover with the processes. There is one package called as process in the Node. Then HTTP module, how HTTP servers are written, we will see. And then we will shift to the Express.js. Then we will shift to what? Express.js. Okay. So this is it for a day. In next week, I'm about to complete the express. In next week,
Okay.
hello?
Yes, okay.
In the next week, we will complete the express. But this is the foundation of the Node.js. Node.js is nothing but what the JavaScript ultimately, right? If you have a good understanding of the JavaScript, you just need to know how the buffer works, how stream works, how event works, what is the event loop exactly, right? So this can clear the Node.js pretty well. Now, Express.js is a third-party library. So in Node.js, we will see few third-party libraries that will help you, that we will see shortly. But in the next week, we will cover what you can say Express.js. Fine?
Fine.
Node events. So let's meet next week. So these topics are little small, buffer, stream, events. There is not much. But we will extend the session from the next week once we start the Express. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.